How you doing out there? Matt Frazier here. No Shit Podcast. Today, Friday, November 10th, 2017. Tonight's guest, a defiler of worlds, scourge of the earth, destroyer of dreams, none other than the Millennial. Tonight's guest will be a Millennial. My co-host, as usual, will be Eric Smith. We'll be talking to a Millennial tonight and finding out all of the secrets about how they plan on destroying our great nation. So, tonight's guest is my son, a Millennial. His name's Kieran Frazier, and he's on the phone with us. How you doing this evening, Kieran?
I'm doing fine.
So, you had mentioned when you saw that I was doing podcasts, right? You had said, hey, I want to do one on being a Millennial. So, you had kind of come up with some ideas. I said, sure, go put it together, get some ideas that you want to talk about. And I guess from what you're telling me, you've got some ideas on some topics where you think that the Millennials got it figured out, and you got some opinions on topics where you feel like they don't, and it's actually the older generations that have it figured out, and you'd like to kind of discuss those with us tonight, correct?
Right.
So far away, Millennial, we're ready for you. What's your first topic? Let's discuss it.
Let's start off with a good one. Social media.
So what is it about social media that you think the older generations don't understand?
It's kind of like how we're always super involved in social media, and like, I don't want to say they don't understand it, but like, they don't necessarily like appreciate that we're always on social media.
Okay.
Do you understand what I mean?
I do. I mean, I understand that a lot of parents don't like the amount of time their kids spend on social media, but what is it that we get wrong as us old folks? What is it that we're getting wrong about social media?
Everybody says that your life should be somewhere that's not your cell phone. Well, I've heard that a lot before. But like, that's really for a millennial where their life is, because we have our contacts in our cell phone. We have the people who we talk to on our cell phone. So that's basically where most of our life would be. And like, I've been told countless times to get out of my phone and go do something outside. But like, it's hard to do something outside with like
someone your age when you're all inside on the phones.
Yeah, kind of.
Like living, I mean, not making fun of that in any way or anything, just making sure like that you're saying that it's hard to socialize within your peer group because that socialization is done mostly through the social format of the internet.
Is that really where we're at now? As a society, that's where we're at. Where
sadly,
if
yes.
you were going to go outside or go participate out in anything outside, you'd be alone. That's the assumption here, right?
Sadly, yes, because I would love to go outside and like hang out with friends and like meet up at their houses, but like they're all just inside and doing their own thing. Like, all right, I see. So,
does no one in your friend group organize anything outside of the social network environment?
Occasionally.
And like, what would be an example of that?
Like, if we were to go like hang out at like the park or something, or each other's house, even.
So just like when you guys do that, are you organizing just to hang out, or is there some sort of a medium? Like, do you get together to play cards or video games, or are you just organizing to meet up at a park and just hang out?
And then sit and talk to each other on your phones.
Well, partially yes. It's mostly yes for all of them. For me, at least. Whenever I go to a friend's house, it's normally just hanging out with them. We do a lot of diverse different things. Like, we'd ask to like get driven somewhere to like hang out and have fun there. And normally we were not on our cell phones because I personally don't have data, so I can't be on my cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
So And he's normally not on his cell phone either because it's a respect sort of thing.
Gotcha.
So like if someone's trying to talk to you, you're not normally in your phone. You're like talking to them back.
And so, but basically, you're saying that there's a lot of socializing that goes on through the phone and the social networks, but there's still some that you do in real life, right?
Yes.
Just more on the phone than in real life.
Right. Actually, I kind of find it as for a student, I kind of find it like a 50-50 because sometimes you're socializing with your friends at school during like lunch and classes and stuff. But like when you go home, you're not around your other friends. So it's like, of course, you're going to talk to them through social media, through your phone, through texting, through calling.
I got you. So really, it's almost like the link never goes away. It's not so much that you're spending more time on your phone than in real life. Would you say that the people that you talk with on the phone are the same people that you associate with when you are associating off the phone?
Yes and no. There are certain people that I talk to on the phone, which like I've met them like once in real life, but like I wouldn't talk to them unless I'm talking to them on the phone because I'm awkward. But
Do you think that awkwardness though comes from having mediums that you can associate with people in that don't require you to be face to face?
well,
Like, you know what I mean? Because I think that's a really common thing, especially with millennials, is that, and maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I don't want to make assumptions here and get myself in trouble, but from what I understand, that they tend to be socially awkward, right? So
right.
do you think that they're socially awkward because they associate with each other in mediums that don't actually convey, body language?
Well, partially yes and partially no, mostly because it's like whenever we talk to each other, it's very whenever we talk to each other on the phone, we have nothing to hide because everything's already hidden. Like being in the presence of someone else when you're talking to them, some people find it awkward because of their social awkwardness, but I don't want to say it came from always spending time on your cell phone.
Gotcha. It doesn't seem like it's that different. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's that different. I mean, I don't know. I'm 48, and that puts me on the end of the baby boomers and the beginning of Generation X. And I socialize with some people exclusively through Facebook and chat. Like there's people that I talk with every other day that I've never met in real life.
Right.
And a few people I have like at conventions and stuff, and that's what most of my contacts are on Facebook as opposed to family and stuff. So I definitely use social media to not only for that reason, but to also transfer items back and forth and express myself by releasing music that I write and things that I do that are within the context of the interests of the people who are my friends on Facebook. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to just
Yeah.
family. So I do a lot of socializing in that aspect on it. And like from what you're telling me, that it sounds more like an extension of a millennial socialization, really, than it is something that's detracting and retarding you being able to function normally. Would you say that's how it sounds?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's odd because the assumption is that you're somehow disconnected, but I
Yeah.
actually don't think that's the case. I think they're more connected than any generation ever has been. They're connected to information constantly. 20, that information streams that when we were growing up, we didn't have. We didn't have those kind of, because they got social media, then gajillion channels on television, and then unlimited access to the internet, and then and then even school and everything is starting to change and become very um, interactive media driven and things like that. So um, I think maybe what we're seeing from millennials is just the only healthy way of dealing with it is in some ways to disconnect, maybe. You know what I mean? I mean, what do you think, Kieran?
Disconnect how? Like disconnect from like the real world or disconnect from the technology world?
Well, I don't know, maybe both, but it's like, I think a person has a limited amount of bandwidth,
Right.
and different people have different amounts of bandwidth, and you've probably seen friends that have disconnected completely from social media, haven't you?
Yes.
Okay, so what are they doing that for?
Drama.
Yeah, I've noticed that too, man. I see people all the time saying, "Man, I need to take a break from Facebook. I need to take a break," and I have never felt that way since I've been on Facebook. I've never felt like I needed to take a break, and I mean, consequently, I've never posted a political
Right.
or any personal stuff on my page, and I generally don't have much to say that people who do, but I never really need a break, man. I
Yeah.
always find it to be a source of information.
I find plenty of people who say that they need a break from social media because of the drama that's going around at their school or going on with their family or something. For whatever reason, their family. Um,
But I mean, if someone's got some stuff going on with their family, that's a valid reason, isn't it? I mean,
to,
drama it may be, but that doesn't mean that it's
correct.
necessarily okay. Okay,
Um,
so it sounds like all I was getting at was that when you asked me the question, you said disconnect how? I said, disconnect. You're going to disconnect from something because people, like I said, have limited bandwidth, right? And so something's going to have to be focused on less to make room for this new thing that's consuming. I mean, geez, it's some
But
kids are 4 hours a day.
you can do that internally without having to do that externally. Like, for instances, even though I'm on Facebook and stuff like that, I still have no idea what's going on politically.
right.
I mean, I'm sure it's right in front of my face when I'm on Facebook,
You just
but
don't pay
I
attention to it
don't,
at
not at
all,
all,
huh?
no, because I don't. I'm constantly
Well,
don't know
that's a
what's
really
going on.
valid point, because how much of this stuff are they actually stopping to look at,
Right.
and it sort of gives them a different sort of callousness.
And like that with personal drama too. I think
Not
that's really just
callousness, but
another way of saying I can't stop myself from being involved in this school drama, so I have to remove an avenue that allows me to do it, or because I can't do it myself.
Kieran, do you think that because you're exposed to so much more information about your peers, that you develop, and for lack of a better term, that millennials have a better bullshit filter, like where they know when okay, this is going to be BS, and then do you think that they develop sort of that ability because of all of the drama and stuff like that?
Like when someone starts to like freak out and like that it's fake.
Yeah.
Yes.
For example, yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
That's
So,
good.
so would you say though then that millennials as a whole, do you think that they're more critical of things that they're told or that they hear? Do you think do you think they are very trusting, or do you think they're more on the distrustful side about everything?
A lot of them are on the distrustful side, but some other ones are also on the trusting side. It just matters. I feel like the majority of them are on the distrusting side, though.
How does that? I mean, give me an example. I mean, how does that work out? Like if they hear something, or a friend tells you something, are you willing to just believe him, or because the rumor is that millennials don't believe anything until they Google it. So this is kind of where I'm leading you. I mean, is there any truth to that kind of assumption that that's the way millennials work?
Do you avail yourself of all of the information that is to be had?
He's going to a what?
Well, right, that's what you're asking, right? Like you're
Yeah.
saying,
Yep.
I mean,
Answer the question.
searching
Don't
for
wait for the translation to answer the
information.
question. Sorry.
There's a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different ways for finding information. If it's information about drama, it's like it's normally you find it from your friends, even if it is from through social media. But like, sorry, excuse me. If it's like any other type of information, then it's normally through Google. So partially yes, partially no. It's a very partial thing because it's also very opinion based.
Right, no, I dig that, but so if a friend comes and tells you something like, hey man, let's go all ancient aliens, right? There's a giant meteor called Oculus Prime or some bizarre thing, and it's NASA's hiding it, and it's going to hit the planet on this day. Okay, how likely are you to buy that, or before you would just be like, oh, okay, I'm going to Google the shit out of that because I don't buy that at all. I mean, so which end of this? You see what I'm saying? Like, how likely are you guys to just believe something your peers say versus, or do you just Google everything now?
I've seen it happen so many times. All of my friends are walking around school because we just had a recent version of that when like the world was gonna end sometime in like September. And all of my friends were going around school like, oh my god, Planet X is gonna crash into Earth, and everybody was believing their friends. And I'm sitting here
I just
like,
made that up. Like I didn't. I just made it up.
But that stuff's happening a lot, though.
well, yeah. I mean, you used
I was like,
an example.
no one's going to
like,
listen to this because there's no way. This is the most ridiculous thing, and this sucks. And then he's like, oh yeah, we totally did that.
Don't underestimate us.
so basically you're saying that did anybody use the internet to verify that wasn't true, or did they just have the internet around them and it told them that this was going to happen and they worried about it? Or did they actually,
Right when I heard it, it was on Facebook, and I, like, right off the bat opened up the article, and I was like, all of this is obviously fake. Stay in school, kids.
Right, so you're saying they do. If they wish to, it's easy for them to access that information and find that out, right?
So, but some of your peers, this is kind of relevant, right? Because basically what you're saying is even with something as sensational as this, some of your own peers at school and stuff were fooled by it and didn't realize that it was fake, that it was fake news or it was fake information, and were buffaloed by it.
Or were they just gladly spreading drama and wanted to be a part of that scene and saying, "Oh man, did you hear about this? Yeah, it's terrible." I mean, like, did they actually believe it? Were they preparing? Did they have water in jugs? You know what I mean?
Like
that's what I was thinking. Like, everybody's really calm for like the world supposedly ending in 2 days. Like,
right? They're almost cheerful. Like, hey, did you see the news?
Right?
It is like that,
but like,
though. It's sad.
The weird thing is, they were like super calm about that, but someone spread it in an article that the Snapchat servers are going down on the 14th. Everybody just started freaking out. Huh. And I'm sitting here like, the irony is kind of scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit, right? So you think that, it sounds like then that this hyper-technical generation is just as susceptible to, BS online as are your peers or your adult counterparts, right? Like your mom and dad and your grandparents and things like that. They're just as susceptible as you guys are. I mean, you guys, that's funny. I would have really suspected that would be different, that they would be much more tech savvy and thereby much more critical of news and information because they would want to verify it first.
That and all of millennials aren't trying to figure out a nice way to put this. They're not the best information wise, I guess, because they believe everything they read on the internet.
Now, would you say that differs with the older population, or do you think that they're the same, or do you think that they're more skeptical?
I believe there is a lot of older population that would still believe everything they read on the internet, but a lot of the rest of the older population is kind of just like, yeah, that's just stupid. Like, they're it's probably because most of the millennials grew up with the internet,
Okay.
so it's something they rely off of.
Gotcha.
So it's just a normal way of life, right? Is kind of what you're
Right.
getting at. They've never really known. You've never really. I don't think you've ever known a time without the internet, right?
I know there was a time when I didn't even know what the word internet was, but like as far back as I can remember, I was probably watching something on YouTube.
Or that.
But that's
What I'm
also
saying
because
is
I have really bad memory.
as far back as you can. Oh, great. As far back as you can remember, you remember there being an internet. Is kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Concerning YouTube, and you talking about growing up, as far as you can remember back, you can remember watching YouTube. Concerning that, when you go to select something like, say, music, okay, say you want to find some kind of music you've not heard before, and you go exploring, how do you go about doing that? Like, how do you go about exploring using YouTube? Or how do you feel about it? Rather, maybe is what I'm asking. You know what I mean?
For exploration purposes, YouTube isn't the best place
Okay.
because of how vulgar people can be on YouTube.
You mean like in the comments?
In the videos.
Oh, okay. But
surprisingly.
you mean like music videos?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
There is a lot of if someone wants to explore rap, but like rap that's like I'm trying to think of a good rap artist, but like I can't think of any. If someone wants to search for appropriate rap for the age that they're at, they're probably not gonna find it because they really pop up with the most popular. Say you searched up rap on YouTube, rap music, they'd pop up with the most popular videos.
So where do you go when you go to search for new music?
When I search for new music, I normally go to my friends. Like, hey, I'm getting bored of this genre of music. Do you have any other genres of music that I can listen to that I might like? Oh yeah, sure, blah 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 blah. And then I check them out. If I don't like them, I'd be like, I didn't like that, and they're like, all right. So I go through it with my friends.
And do they come to you sometimes for the same reasons?
Yeah, I actually got a friend into hard rock because of it.
Gotcha.
So where did this, like, because isn't K-pop a big deal with you guys now?
K-pop is a huge deal with a lot of, mostly because
it is with me.
A group called BTS.
But do you think that do you think, Kieran, that the internet is a motive in YouTube is a motivating factor for that? Like that you're being exposed to, music that's multicultural?
It is huge,
or did it come from
YouTube is multicultural.
You think that's what it is? It's not because like a foreign exchange student showed up and said, "Hey, check this out." You think it's
right.
because okay.
So on some level, you're being exposed to new music just by virtue of being in contact with YouTube, because there's so much, you can almost really not avoid it, right?
Right.
So you're when you go looking for something a bit more specific than the random, like a particular genre, that's when you go to your friends, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And the reason that I was asking is because I remember a time when there simply wasn't that wellspring of variety just to be found someplace in one spot. Like you really had to search past your friends or stumble upon something in some weird way or listen to the radio or, something specific. And then you only got like certain genres and types and stuff. It wasn't like when you're on YouTube today and you're looking for new music, we're not just talking about new current music, but you can go back in time as well and find interest in things, right?
Correct.
So you don't really see that as a boundary, really, do you?
I don't see boundaries in that at all.
Exactly that, because back in my day, like when I was a kid, man, there was boundaries to it. When you were looking for something new, it was synonymous with current, like new and current. You didn't find anything older because you couldn't. You didn't have access to it. You weren't going to find older records.
You could go crawl through the record stores and go crawl through the vinyl and stuff like that.
Yeah, but you couldn't find 75 RPM records, like the old hard ones.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't even find those when I was a kid.
Right.
Because that medium had already left and you couldn't find stuff on that. So, but now you can. Now you can get 1939 songs right off of YouTube or other places.
Sort of everything is on there. Yeah. So, Kieran,
he doesn't even see it as a boundary.
Do you have what am I trying to say here? Do you have music that you're fond of that's from previous generations?
Yes, mostly because of my father.
Oh, because that guy, that jerk.
Yeah, who is that?
He made you listen to Zeppelin.
Right.
And Pink Floyd and the Beatles but
like
so what? Okay, so speaking of that, I mean, what are some of the artists that you resonate with, that you like from the older generations?
A lot of Aerosmith. Aerosmith's great. I listen to Metallica, ZZ Top, like I said, Zeppelin, Van Halen. I like Van Halen. Trying to think of more older music that I like. Pink Floyd. You mentioned Pink Floyd.
Yep.
What's the oldest music that you genuinely like as decades?
Basically the 80s.
Okay.
Like that's the 80s, maybe late 70s, but like that's the furthest back I'll go.
So you say the 80s, so like we're talking like Loverboy, Duran Duran. Yeah, right.
Tears
like that kind of
stuff. Yeah.
What kind of modern music do you listen to?
Right now I'm listening to dubstep kind of stuff. Electronic.
Any particular person?
It's someone that I just found recently. They're called the Fat Rat.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's really good. I also, Dad mentioned this earlier. I also listen to K-pop. Sadly, sad to admit.
No, I do.
But
too, so it's not bad.
You do?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Psy in particular. Psy.
Oh, well, I didn't.
That's
okay, so that's
yes.
K-pop.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's my ignorance.
Just about anything that he does, even the old stuff. Like, I like all of it.
That's Gangnam Style or whatever guy, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, lady.
Yeah, from Korea. And yeah, because that's Gangnam Style. That's slang for Gangnam is an older gentleman who has money that takes out younger women.
That and Gangnam was
a sugar daddy.
The province, right? No, wait, that's the province.
Yes, it was a province
north of the Hugh River. That's what it was. It's like their Beverly Hills kind of, right?
Yeah, they had a very different style than Korea. I can't remember the specifics of it, but
it was Oppa. That's what it was. Oppa was the slang for an older gentleman that likes to take out younger women who has money. Oppa Gangnam Style.
Right. So, Oppa would be considered as
so basically
someone who's older that a little girl or a younger girl would look up to.
Right, yeah.
So the American equivalent would be like Hugh Hefner or something.
Yeah,
like
that.
Yeah. kind of.
Why do you know who Hugh Hefner is?
Because he just died and it was all over social media. Hence social media.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
This is an
Literally
interrogation.
everybody was like, "Rip Hugh Hefner," and I asked Mom, "Who's Hugh Hefner?" And she's like, "Just don't worry about it." And I was like, "But who is he?" And she told me.
All right, so let's ask you this question. Let's kind of I think we've beaten the internet and social media to death here. Let's talk about like big social issues and stuff. You know,
I have some of those.
Okay, we'll hit. What do you got? Let's hear it.
I have 4, maybe 5 big social issues now. They all kind of go in with each other. The very first one that I have on the top of my list is homosexuality or the gay society.
You want to tackle that one, huh? Just right in the deep end
a
of the
little
pool.
afraid to do, like.
So what do you think? I mean, where do you think things are headed? And I mean, how does your generation feel about things like homosexuality and transgenders and stuff like that?
There is a very small percentage of the world that is homosexual in any way, shape, or form. A very small percentage, but still, that at least 1% of everybody in the world is still a lot of people. If you think about it in like a smaller scheme of things. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that like most of that percentage are younger people.
I don't know. I know some older gay people.
Yeah, so do I. But like,
I think it's this. I think if it's a percentage, then it's probably been the same forever, like ever. You know, like it's just a percentage of society. Period.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure there's more or less. There may be in the younger generations, however, I think people are a lot more comfortable with saying so than they were with like my generation and older generations. So maybe so it may appear that there's more of them in the younger generations.
Kids are still like afraid to like come out to their parents like, "Hey, I'm gay," but like I'm basically 100% straight. Not basically, I am. So I don't see a problem of like someone like coming out to your parents. Like the worst that could happen is your parents just be like, no. Like I can't even think of the worst thing that could happen. Like I don't see it as such a big deal, but like most millennials are what dad would consider snowflakes. They get mad at everything.
Mm-hmm.
Are offended by everything.
Like they have a new special term called triggered. Oh God,
I'm familiar.
Yes, you are. And I'm kind of afraid to like talk about some of this stuff because like I don't want someone to like flip out and be like, "No, he's wrong. I'm mad." Like,
well, they'll do that no matter what.
So
they will. They will.
Are you saying though that then that you hide your opinions because you fear some sort of social backlash for sharing them?
I really don't hide my opinions. It's just I soften them.
Mm.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think that's called good conversation, man. I don't.
Yeah. Right.
You know, I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, you soften you soften. Are you saying you soften your opinions? Or you soften the way you present them?
I soften the way I present them.
Okay, that's a different thing. So I think that's just being, you know, a good polite person, you know, rather than smashing someone over the head and screaming at them because we know how well that works.
And what are your opinions?
What are my opinions?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you articulate them?
Articulate my opinions about what specifically? Because I have a lot of very diverse opinions.
Well, we were talking about your opinion on homosexuality, right? But listen, there's two sides to this, right? We're looking for here if you want to share it, your opinion, or what we're kind of talking about is how millennials react to things as like a group. Okay, and you're kind of telling me that there seems to be divisions within that group.
There is.
Okay.
And when I ask you your opinion, every time I want you to understand that I'm asking your opinion as a millennial. I'm not necessarily asking your personal opinion. I only in the context of the topic of our conversation. Just so I'm making that clear when I'm asking you anything. Just so you know.
I see.
So how do you think, I mean, let's talk about then homosexuality. How do you think, going back to the beginning, right? It's what we're sort of asking is how does the millennials as a whole sort of view this topic that's different from the older generations?
Because presumably the older generations don't like the topic, don't like homosexuality, and don't typically embrace it as a general group of people. I mean, at least that's how it's been. That's how it's been for people. When I talk to people my age, the majority of people, when they're talking in normal circumstances where they feel safe and comfortable, they tend to not really be down with it that well. I have a really good friend who is extremely homophobic.
So do I. I have multiple friends who are highly homophobic
in your
and
age group.
homosexual.
But
Yes.
yeah, wow. Okay, go ahead.
I mean this as whenever I say as a whole, I mean the majority, saying that people will have their own opinions on it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we understand
But
that.
more or less as a whole, the millennials could honestly care less if you're gay, straight, whatever.
That's good. That's good.
So you're saying they're very accepting then,
or are you just
I
saying
don't
they're
want to say
apathetic?
they're just average about it. They're like, okay, cool.
Apathetic.
Like, I'm not going to discriminate you if you don't discriminate against me. Like,
So-
golden rule, treat others how you want to be treated.
Okay. So the obvious next topic would be things like racism.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you think as a whole millennials regard racism versus their older counterparts?
Racism within millennials, I find that they get the term racism wrong.
In what sense?
That they don't understand what racism means.
Yeah, but what he's asking is, yeah, we got that. I mean, how
Okay.
did they get
Like,
it wrong?
For example.
For example,
millennials.
someone would say the term, like, stating if someone's black or not. Someone would say, like, oh, that person's black, describing them.
Mm-hmm.
Someone would take that the wrong way and be like, that's racist. There's nothing racist about stating someone's skin color.
Right.
And the sad thing is, it doesn't go the other way. If someone were to say, if I were white, which I am white, someone were to state that I'm white, it's kind of like, okay, whatever. I wouldn't, like, flip that on them because that's not how I am. But if someone states that someone's black, oh boy, you better run. Like,
That's interesting.
So, like your opinions before, do you feel that that sort of possibility of a social or moral backlash softens your conversations about and your opinions about racism?
yes, I do. But there are some times when someone's just being straight up stupid, and I mean that in the nicest way possible, where it's like they're so uneducated about the term racism that I will lash out on them and be like, you are so wrong, it's not even funny. Like, probably one of my biggest pet peeves, even though I do it too, it makes me a huge hypocrite, is when someone's wrong.
So, where do you think do you feel that the country on these last two topics, homosexuality and on racism, do you think that you guys, the millennials, feel like that it's moving in the right direction, or do you think millennials feel like, the country's sort of moving in the wrong direction on that topic?
The country is basically moving in the wrong direction, which is kind of sad because everybody's saying that the millennials is, like, going to, like, end smoking and all the bad things. But, like, it's sad because if you look at it, millennials are smoking, they're drinking alcohol underage. So I don't really understand where people got the topic that we're gonna end all bad things.
So is that your impression? Is that what you think? Is that what you think adults are worried about when it comes to the millennial generation? Is that they're not going to be able to get their camels anymore?
That's gonna be a big thing, yeah. Because either way, it's like, if the adults are probably gonna, if they smoke, they're probably gonna keep smoking unless they make their own decision to quit. But the kids, they shouldn't be smoking or drinking alcohol or anything like of that caliber underage anyways, because of the age that they are. So, like, I don't really understand how people got that, and, like, parents, I would be very frightened if millennials started running this country.
You
I have to agree with all that.
Okay, so you're saying that you're not optimistic. Is that what you're getting at? When the millennials take over? I mean, it's your generation, and you're like, no, we suck. Is that what you're?
Yes,
100%.
Really?
Wow.
Yes.
Yikes. Well, let me tell you something, man. The older people that I hear complaining about millennials aren't complaining about cigarettes. The feeling that they have is that um, millennials don't have a grip on how things actually work, and there's probably a lot of truth to that, right? Because no young person really does.
That is very true.
And not that most old people, have a grip on how things actually work, but they feel that you're very naive, that you're very privileged and pampered, and that you don't understand how tough the big bad world really is.
I have a story to interject.
Go ahead.
Okay.
So, I don't know if you know this or not about me, but I'm going to college. I'm in my senior year, a couple of semesters away. I have a bachelor's in history and a associate's in philosophy. And so, at 48, I'm around a lot of kids who are roughly between the ages of, I don't know, I think some of them are as young as 17 and somewhere around 21. And in a geology class I was taking, we were studying for a midterm, and we were all in the class together. And one of the things that we were studying was topographical maps. And I was in there listening to what other people said because it refreshes my memory to hear other people talk about it. And one of the things I overheard this really young girl say in all earnest was, man, I wouldn't even know that water flowed downhill if it wasn't for this class. And I looked over at her, and she was dead serious, man. And at first I got almost offended, like almost mad, almost worried, almost had a panic attack kind of. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, like she's probably right, man. She's probably lived her whole life like in a house and maybe has never went camping and truly has only seen water come out of a faucet and has no idea that water runs downhill in any particular fashion on a map, and I'm like, so I think when I hear things like that, and sometimes I also hear people say, man, I'm just here to make my C and get my degree. Nobody's really embracing the knowledge that's being given or that's accessible in text and stuff. And I think that that's part of the issue. I mean, for all the information that's out there, nobody really is that much more or less compelled to access it than normal.
Right.
But I don't know if that's relevant. Just the story might be relevant, but I don't necessarily have a point with that. I just something that happened to me.
Well, and it's another anecdotal as it is. It's another personal story, though not even anecdotal, where that concern sort of comes from with us and our parents and stuff looking at millennials and going, holy crap, what? And I thought. And shame on me, right? Because I thought I was going to talk to my son here about the millennial generations and have him go, oh, yeah, man, we got it. We got it figured out. And he's basically going, oh, no, we're completely screwed up. Like, we don't have a clue. Everything you're worried about is founded and holy shit,
And I'm not advocating the older generation hasn't screwed everything up or nothing.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
right.
I'm not advocating one over the other by pointing that out or anything. I mean,
yeah, this country didn't get into trillions of dollars of debt, and massive student debt, massive.
We've already proved our
wars that don't end.
Right.
Turn on any story about Washington D.C. Ha ha ha. Like, yeah, we don't have any special sort of
swamp draining equipment.
Well, no, I mean, like,
Oh
we've screwed it up pretty freaking good here,
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard for me to stand back and look at millennials and go, no, you're the ones that are really going to screw it up. And it's like, well, here, you have this turd sandwich,
The best we have now is millennials.
They say you can't break what's already broken, but we're going to figure it out.
We're going to put it to the test.
So let's put your outlook. Holy crap. your outlook as a millennial, from inside, looking at the millennial generation, is that they're not doing well. But it sounds like, see, that's kind of counterintuitive because it sounds like on a lot of social issues,
yeah,
where we as a society right now have a hang up about they don't care about like they're not hung up on the issues of homosexuality
or race.
And racism and things like that as much.
Yeah.
So, Kieran, that being said, I mean, where is it though that you think we should all pray for the giant asteroid of death?
With millennials in general, a big thing is that they only worry about themselves or if they're in a relationship or not.
So you're saying that they just tend to be very self-absorbed?
Yes, very.
But we called that the 80s.
Really?
Yeah, that was the
second part I call my life right now. That's what I'm like.
It was the 70s and 80s were both very decadent decades, and people were self-absorbed, and so I don't know. So are you saying though that you think that millennials are more self-absorbed? I guess duck face pics on Facebook.
There hasn't been a more decadent form of music than disco yet. I mean, like you had to have a pretty decadent lifestyle to with drugs and to have disco music. So
how is it that you feel that millennials are more self-absorbed, dangerously self-absorbed, or whatever, than our generations were?
Well, I can't speak very openly about this because I don't know your generation.
Well, I'll help you out.
We're the ones that have already screwed everything up. What do you got?
Yeah. I believe that we're just going to screw everything up just a little more, unless we do have a lot of brilliant people in our subdivision, I guess. Is that a good term for it? Subdivision, kind of. Yeah.
So, okay. How about religion? Do you think, because the statistics say that millennials are like very non-religious? Okay. Do you see that? Do you think that that's a true sampling?
I know private school students that love to pray and go to church and stuff, or do whatever religion they decide to practice. But I also know a lot that they don't very much, I don't want to say care about it, but that's what I'm going to say. They don't really care about if they have a religion or not.
Do you think that there's a separation between private schools and public schools? Because you've been to both, right? So do the kids in private school care more about religion than the kids that are in public schools?
Yes, if they go to a Catholic, Christian, Seventh-day Adventist religious school.
Well, yeah, man, I get that. But I thought you meant like a non-religious private school.
I could say yes to that too.
Okay.
Are you saying that they care as much about it as they're forced to care about it? As much as it is that they have to focus in their daily life on it?
Right, or is it a genuine interest for them?
With a lot of them, it's a huge, genuine interest with them.
So you would say, would you say more millennials are religious than not?
No, we're not talking about Star Wars. Millennials.
Millennials,
Falcon that Han Solo flew around in.
Millenniums or years, like thousands of years.
Oh shit! Yeah, there you go with the science again.
Anyway, sorry about all the other.
What was the question?
I don't know. It was in general. Do the millennials?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Do you think that they're more religious or less in general?
Less.
Really?
Less. Yes.
And for what reasons do you feel that it's that way? Is it just that they're being pulled by a lot of different things and they're just not interested in it? Or do you think they're looking at it and judging it and being like,
I feel that they feel like they have a lot more better things to worry about than following a religion.
Why do you think that is?
Probably because, like I said earlier, they're more interested if they get into a relationship or not, or they're more interested about themselves.
So you're saying that it's because they're more self-absorbed?
Yes.
That's interesting.
they believe that they don't have the time to practice a religion or whatever.
Do you think that millennials have more or less respect for their parents than previous generations?
I'd honestly say less, which is something that I don't like saying, but it's true.
It's true, right?
Like, me as a human being, I love my parents. My parents are great. But I know
just answer the
people...
questions, millennial.
I'm trying my best. I do know some people that try to stay away from their parents because they don't think that they're good people.
Are they related to you?
And
I'm just joking.
What are you getting at?
Just ratting out the siblings.
Whatever my son says, I deny.
Uh-huh.
Whatever he's told you, it's not true. Yikes. So anyway, the question was
whether in general millennials respect their parents,
and his
more or less,
and his answers.
Said,
so
no.
Kieran, do you think that's just their parents or just older peers in general?
Older peers in general.
Huh.
Why do you think that is?
The very first thing that pops into my mind is the music that they listen to.
Really?
Yeah.
Please extrapolate on that. That sounds very intriguing.
A lot of the music that I've heard other kids listen to, it's very disrespectful.
Uh-huh.
In the sense that it talks about not appropriate usage of language against other adults.
Okay.
Or not appropriate acts against adults.
I gotcha.
Well, we called that punk rock, the anti-establishment stuff.
No.
You know. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that Johnny Rotten and all of those guys.
Our generation had that same.
We had that anti-establishment sort of musical genre. We called it punk rock, you know. But so you feel that it's because of the music that they are the way they are, and it's not the other way around. It's not that the music has found an audience in these people. You know what I'm saying? It's not the other way.
Yeah, music is a very big part in the life of a millennial.
It's interesting because I also listen to dubstep quite a bit myself, and me and my kid get along just fine, like with musical taste and stuff. Like I write and produce a lot of EDM music myself, but also listen to like dubstep and stuff. So a lot of modern stuff. It's just interesting that me and him get along in that area. So he's 12, almost 13.
Oh wow.
I would have thought that because of course, you know, I'm looking through this prism of being 45, and when you look back at, are you laughing? When you look back at
no, I'm just surprised you remember your own age.
Shut up and answer the questions. When you look back, what the hell was I saying? Okay.
Age got involved, and now you're forgetting.
Now look, I'm going senile already because of my kid. When you hear about the millennial snowflakes and everything, and you think they're all like, "Oh my God, we've got to find a tree to hug right now," and you would figure that the music would sort of represent that, right? That there'd be all these, you
happy
know,
music,
or save the world, save the universe, save the trees, save the whales, save something sort of. And you're saying, Kieran, that the popular music is not that way. It's more disrespectful, more violent, or more aggressive.
Or
correct?
Are you saying that's how the older generation interpret it, or is it that way?
It is that way, but it's also the other way too.
Okay.
So are they mad at their parents because they want to save the world? Is that kind of, you know, Dad won't save a whale, damn it, you know? Is it so screw him?
Like I said previously, I say them all as in a broad term. There are still other groups of people that have their own opinions.
Right.
So maybe it's not.
So
Maybe, Kieran, let me ask you this. Maybe it's just not fair to group millennials into an age group because it sounds like maybe there's a lot more ideological strata inside that group than you can't just really lump them all together. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
yeah, I never really understood the term millennial. I can't say that I never really liked it because I use it all the time because it's just a name for a subdivision that is someone who's younger or someone
Well,
who
it's like
focuses on
Gen X.
technology.
It's really just determining a group of people that are with a certain time period. And
Right.
I guess obviously it's not really grouping you into any kind of ideological group is kind of what you're saying, that being called a millennial and then expected to be a certain way is really not fair because you have a lot of different sort of ideological strata within that group.
Yeah. So the way that I look at it, so there's a lunchroom, okay? When you'd go to lunch, you'd hang out with your group of friends, and normally you and your group of friends would act the same, right?
Yep.
Yeah, well, I guess in school we called those cliques.
Yeah.
You had the
Right.
jocks, you had the nerds, you had the hoods or whatever,
Yep.
Exactly. So that's really how I see millennials. They're all divided into cliques.
Okay.
So that's not abnormal though. That's
Just like we.
No, it really
Yeah.
isn't.
so you don't think millennials actually get a bad rap though. I mean, it sounds to me like your personal opinion of millennials is that they're kind of messed up like a truckload of coat hangers.
Yeah. Some of them are basically a truck full of coat hangers, but others they're tree huggers, and then others could care less about like what goes on around them. And then there are others that like want to spend time with their friends. They're millennials. It's just a huge variety of different people.
So there's no real sort of social cohesion inside that group at all. Then is what you're saying.
Correct.
Wow.
I actually have the definition of a millennial right here.
Go ahead.
It says, in October 2004, researchers Neil Howe and William Strauss called millennials the next great generation. I find that funny.
Like in population size? Or...
He's going, I don't know who the hell this guy's talking about, but it ain't my friends.
Right? They defined the group as those born in 1982 and approximately 20 years thereafter. In 2012, they affixed the endpoint as 2004, and that was March 25th, 2014. So that was 3 years ago. I feel like since then, the definition of a millennial has changed a lot.
If not academically, then perhaps in the lexicon.
But they still have this generation of kids, and I mean, they're the ones fighting in wars right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, they fit inside that age group. So
they do.
So there is a group of people or a group inside that millennial demographic that are, selfless, at least to that end, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so it's just that it's not. So maybe it doesn't. Maybe the term is used wrong then, Kieran, and maybe it is because when someone says millennial, it's always or maybe it's not. It's always a derogatory term. It's like oh God, that's the whole point of this podcast, right? It was the scourge of the earth, the millennials.
Right.
So I get a millennial on the phone, and I'm like, he's about to tell us how we're wrong, and he's like, nope, we suck.
And then you could get on the phone with another millennial, then they say, "Oh, well, we're great."
Because we like trees.
Because we like
a huge
trees.
Mixing bowl.
Or we're going to change everything, or we have idealism, or whatever. So it's just,
Right.
it's just a big mishmash.
A lot of that going on in the 60s and 70s, too, late 60s, a lot of people trying to change things and having ideas and trying to change things.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not nothing new. There's always been, like, sectarian groups of people who want to have change, like the hippies.
What do you think, Kieran? I mean, you think? How do you think this group feels about the direction of the leadership for this country? And I'm not saying I want to talk specifically about the president or any specific politician. I'm just saying, What is your sense in general about the leadership and the direction the country's going in? This group's sense of it.
Without talking about the president.
No.
We don't need that. Just like throwing this out there, they don't even have their future planned out.
Like, are you saying they just don't even pay attention to it? Like they don't care? It's not important to them.
Not really.
Because it's not about who you're going to date and
You're pretty
it's all
much
about yourself.
Like, I was being completely serious when I said that.
Yikes. So but do some of your friends at least seem to pay attention to what's going on and care about what's happening?
Yeah. It's a huge mixing bowl. There are great-minded people that could probably bring this world back to peace like it was before people knew how to speak English.
What?
Or speak in general.
You mean tribal?
I was gonna say, there's pretty much been wars as long as there's been people, I think, or very shortly thereafter.
Well, the Indians didn't do too bad before the horses were released by the Spanish in a revolt, but that's when their warrior culture actually took hold, and then they had all kinds of war. But they settled into 7 nations pretty much from that point. But before that, there was a whole bunch.
Well, like, back around where, like, history class, Australopithecus afarensis was around. It's like, there really wasn't much war.
No,
like,
not large scale.
Right. There was probably just, like, a little conflict because someone stole your rock, but...
Yeah.
So, I mean, then how do you feel this generation feels about the wars? Do they feel like they're necessary? Do they care? Because it's your generation that's coming up here. In another 4 years, it'll be your time. You could punch your clock, right? But how do they feel about the wars over in the Middle East and stuff like that?
They don't really fear them unless they come to America. I said that correctly, right?
Yeah, I mean,
so, yeah.
Yeah. How do they feel about serving in the military and things like that?
I don't think they even know like that they might serve in the military.
Well, okay, this is pretty heavy stuff for you. I mean, I guess we got to take into account that you are. How old are you now? 14?
14.
Okay. So what is the 14-year-old millennial interested in? I mean, what do you spend your time on?
A lot of them are interested in sports, music, relationships, and technology, video games.
So, but that's pretty much the exact same stuff that their parents are involved in. I mean, a lot of their parents, guys my age are into those exact same things, and that's about it.
Are you saying guys your age as in guys you hang out with, or like there are more guys your age that like that kind of stuff?
I would say more.
Wait, what's the question?
that are into like just occupy their time with sports and technology and music and movies and
oh gosh, yeah. In
that's
got
to be
of
the
video
majority.
Games, yeah, that I know. Yeah, definitely. Now I mean that's like normal people I know. Like my personal friends tend to go against that grain and don't do those things. Like I don't do those things, but most normal guys that I know definitely do those things.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
All right, Kieran, you got we've been an hour here. You got any more topics on the list over there?
The only one that we didn't talk about, which I kind of want to save for someone else to talk about, is school, and more specifically self-directed learning, because that just so happens to be the kind of school that I'm doing.
Okay.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
You said you didn't cover gaming fully. Were you referring specifically to video gaming and technology, or like sports or other kinds of games?
Mostly video gaming, because that's the kind of gaming that people my age would enjoy.
And what did you have anything that you wanted to say about it? Because my son, like I was saying, he's 12, going on 13, and he's definitely into video games.
I just want to point out the fact that anybody can play video games. They just have to find whatever floats their boat.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just so happen to be lucky that my dad enjoys the same video games that I enjoy.
Gotcha.
Like, it's how
There's that
it
clock
is.
again.
So you're coming from the perspective, though, that you're saying that most of the older generation is like, bah, humbug video games.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
Well,
Gotcha.
I don't even want to. Yeah, basically, yeah.
Gotcha.
I don't know, though. See, that's a misconception, right? Because I can't think of just about everybody I know
really is into
is
their
really
Xbox
into their
or
Xbox or their PlayStation,
Yeah.
and except for I'm not
because I get motion sickness.
but
Right.
I'm more of a PC guy, but
I'm more of a Pythagorean solid dice guy. Like role playing.
Yeah, you're a role playing game guy, right? For sure. As we all used to be, we used to use our imagination.
Dice, like Dungeons and Dragons. That kind of gaming. And hex-based war games. Like today, I spent most of the day doing a simulation of Axis and Allies, Europe and Pacific, World War II. Me and a friend controlling the Axis powers and the Allies powers. It's like stretches out for like 10 feet. The board's like 10 feet by.
So you'd be a person to play like starts with an R.
I don't know.
Risk.
Oh yeah. It's like a souped up form of Risk. So,
never played Risk. I never understood it. All I know is that countries take over other countries.
That's true. My other question is, how do millennials view the idea that so many scientists and people now are advocating the strong possibility that they'll find life on another planet? Do they believe in UFOs and life and things like that? Do they find that to be a worthy cause, or is it relegated to like religion, where there's some people that's really into it, but most people just don't have time for it?
I'm gonna go with the second one on that one. There are some people who are like, "Wow, that's really interesting." Then there are other people like, "Yo, did you see that news article that one day?"
Okay, right on.
Like,
I'm just curious.
All right, buddy. So we've done over 70 minutes here. I think we've hit your topics. I'm not sure we made a dent, moved the needle either way. I definitely discovered that I should probably be looking a little closer at this demographic because maybe they're just as messed up as we are. But nonetheless, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, bud, and sharing your thoughts. That's kind of what this is for. Eric, as usual.
Nice talking to you.
Thank you. Nice talking to you as well.
So as Eric usual, thanks for coming on the show and co-hosting for me. Answered great questions, and I think we're going to wrap it up there. That's the episode, and I guess may God have mercy on our souls. Good luck to us all. Thanks for listening.